Hey, how are you guys doing? Oh, this is the best wine. I think it's my favorite so far. It's cranberry wine, and I made this gallon around Thanksgiving of last year. And I added mulling spice to it, and I was really kind of concerned that the mulling spice wouldn't last through the ferment, but it did, and it has made for a delicious, fruity, sweet, wonderful dessert wine. Wonderful wine for any time. So this year I decided to make 5 gallons of it. I'm going to bottle it and give it out next year at Christmas. And there was a lot of interest about it, so what the heck, I decided to film the process. So happy winemaking. Here are the ingredients that I used in my batch of wine. This is just plain old cranberry juice. Now it is sweetened, so that means I'll add less sugar later. If you used unsweetened, you'll use more sugar. That is about a half a gallon. The rest will be made up in water. I've got 5 oranges here. I had some that were kind of getting on the downsides. They were getting soft, so they're absolutely perfect for this use. You can use fresh oranges. It's no big deal. I've got about 12 ounces of raisins, cranberry raisins, and I'm going to do 12 ounces of regular raisins. Now, regardless of the one you use, you've got to use regular raisins. Here I've got my mulling spice. Any mulling spice will do. I did add some more cloves to it because I found that that was the spice that really stood out when it came time to drink the wine. So I did add a few more cloves to it. Here is my yeast. It is a wine yeast. You don't have to use wine yeast. You can use plain old bread yeast. 4 teaspoons or 1 package should do fine. Okay, here I've got 10 pounds of sugar. Now I'm only using 10 pounds because the cranberry juice that I bought was already sweetened. If I was using unsweetened cranberry juice, I'd probably use about 15 pounds of sugar. So I'm only going to use 10 pounds of sugar for this batch due to the cranberry juice already being sweet. So I want to kind of pre-dissolve my sugar. So I got the biggest pan I could find, and I just poured all the sugar in. I'm going to add just enough water to cover the sugar and be able to stir it. No more than that. I am going to heat this up. In no way is it going to be boiling. I'm not making syrup, but it does help expedite the sugar dissolving. So I do turn the stove on and heat it up and stir it occasionally. And it's not going to get clear. Don't expect it to get clear, but it will generally dissolve all the sugar eventually. It really doesn't take that long. Now what I have here is an 8-gallon fermenting bucket. It can be used for wine or beer. It does make 8 gallons. I'm only making 5 gallons, so I made a mark at the 5-gallon point. You don't have to have this. I was blessed and someone gave me this. You can do the whole process with just a 5-gallon wine jug. I forget what the correct name of it is. But I'm going to use this for the second ferment, and we're going to do the first ferment in our wine bucket. And these are room temperature, by the way. Now it's time to add all of our little bits and pieces. I'll start with the cran raisins and just start putting everything in. Go in with the raisins. Then I'll add the mulling spice. Just dump everything in there. Now these oranges I'm going to want to quarter. Just simply quarter them, dump them in. Stir things up occasionally. Now I'm going to get my yeast proofing. What I've got here is about a cup of hot water, not scalding hot, with maybe about a quarter of a cup of sugar in it. I'm going to add my yeast to it. I'm going to stir it up, and we're going to proof it just like you would if you proofed yeast when you were going to make bread. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar water while my yeast is proofing, and I just pour it in. Now it's hot. It isn't by no means a scalding hot, but it is good and hot. But once it mixes with the cranberry juice that's at room temp, it's going to cool it down quite a bit. You'll see it doesn't quite go to my 5-gallon mark, so I'm just going to make the rest of it up with just plain water. Now I'm going to feel the temperature of my liquid because I don't want it to be too cool and I don't want it to be too hot. Because if it's too hot or too cool, it will either kill or deactivate my yeasts. So make sure you keep it at a nice, warm, touchable warm temperature. That way you don't kill your yeast and they remain active. Now my 10 minutes is up, and what you're going to notice on your yeast, and I'll try to show it here, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but you'll see a layer of foam has formed on the top of your yeast. This tells me it's proofed, it's active, it's good yeast. If you don't see that after 10 minutes, dump it out. Either go get yourself some fresher yeast at the store, or just try another package. We just dump it straight in there, and then we're going to stir things up. Now this yeast is going to feed off of the sugar and the raisins in particular. It will get some out of the cranberries and oranges, and it's going to smell super, super good right now too. Now it's time to add the lid to our fermentation bucket and the airlock. Now the lid of this bucket has a little hole. This is where our airlock is going to go. Now the airlock protects your fermentation from wild yeast or any other contaminants that might get in and either mess it up or just kill the whole process to begin with. You're going to fill your airlock up with water. There's different kind of airlocks, so this is the one that I usually use. They're the easiest now. Word of warning. This was the first time I've used a fermentation bucket. I usually just ferment right in the carboy itself. And that fits in there real nice and tight. I did not realize I was going to have to hammer this lid onto this bucket. So if you are going to use the fermentation bucket, put the lid on first, then add your airlock. It created quite a mess. I ended up taking it out and redoing it. So, lesson learned, now I know. And in a few hours, this is what you're going to start seeing. This tells me my fermentation is active and things are going exactly according to plan. Now you just sit and wait. So this is going to be a part 1, because what I'm going to do is, this is my first ferment, and I've got it marked on the calendar to go for 3 weeks. 3 weeks is usually plenty of time. Now, I've had wines, when I do it in a gallon jug, it works a little bit different, and I've had them be ready for the second ferment in less time. Some take more time. Because this is the first time I've done it in such a large batch, 3 weeks is a good all-around time. And at that point, I'll film part 2. That's when we're going to remove all the little bits and pieces. We're going to go ahead and transfer it to the glass carboy. We'll put an airlock back on it. I'll also taste it to see if I need a little to back sweeten any. We'll add our airlock back up, and then it's going to sit another 3 weeks. After that time, we'll bottle it. So this is going to be a 3-part series. So watch out for them. It's a process. Remember, you're not going to drink it for a year, but oh, is it going to be worth it? Love ya.